Hello and welcome to the final installment of Potato Cast for the StimHack 3 Core Tournament. This is the second half of my round 5 match against Loveless, and I thought I'd take a minute to explain the Corp deck that I'll be playing and my motivation behind it. I chose the Wayland Consortium's Building a Better World ID. The idea ability of gaining an extra credit whenever you play a transaction adds up fairly quickly in the core set when you have 3 Beanstalk, 3 green level clearance, and 3 hedge fund. Additionally, the ice suite that you have access to with Hadrian's Wall, Ice Wall, and Archer gives you a set of ice that can really keep the runner out or make servers incredibly taxing. Specifically, Hadrian's Wall and Ice Wall are helpful because the fractors in the core set, Morningstar and Battering Ram being the most popular two, are really bad at handling high strength barriers. So Morningstar needs a lot of support in order to get the job done, and Battering Ram is better, but still pretty expensive to get it up to strength, and it's a big tempo hit for the runner to install it. So most of our scoring is going to be behind advanced ice that ends the run. To that end, we have Shipment from Kaguya and Trick of Light, which allow us to advance things somewhat more efficiently and use Trick of Light to close the game out when our scoring remote is no longer impenetrable. The scoring plan is basically to try to rush out an Atlas or something else like a false lead early on in the game behind some cheap end the run ice, and then later on when we have a scoring window, score a priority requisition, and then use some combination of Trick of Light or false lead to allow us to sneak out the last agendas that we need. You also have Hostile Takeover, which is a great way for you to close the game out. If you top deck it, you can just score it directly from hand. So so most people that were playing as Wayland in this tournament seem to be on a punitive Counter-Strike build, and I think that might be the better choice. My concern was that some runners, specifically Chaos Theory with Magnum Opus, would be able to get to the point where they can beat you on Trace later in the game, or when the game goes long enough, if they can steal 2 points. Sorry, if they can steal 4 points relatively early on, then punitive Counter-Strike becomes kind of useless because the next score is going to win for them. So my approach was just to get the biggest dice available, use red herrings to make it somewhat more expensive to actually steal an agenda, and just try to play straight ahead net runner. So let's see how this turns out in our game. Okay, so let's have a look at this game. So me and Loveless are facing off. I will be corping on the bottom. And so remember, the scoring plan here is in my early game, I would like to be able to rush an agenda behind some ice and get on the board quickly. This looks like a great start for me because I've got 3 ice that are cheap and end the run. I've got a Hostile Takeover, and I've also got something I can jam in that remote if I don't see an agenda early on. Additionally, since you have real 3-pointers in this deck, R&D is pretty vulnerable early on to stuff like indexing. And definitely when I was practicing this deck, or when I was playing as a runner, I found that making like a turn 1 or turn 2 run with indexing was a really strong play. And so, as opposed to in standard constructed format where you might leave R&D open for a turn or two if it lets you rush your first 1 or 2 agendas, that seems like a pretty poor idea in this format. And so, whereas if I was playing a fast like Titan deck, then I might just try to score the hostile immediately. In this situation, I'm hoping that what I do is gain some money and then start icing up my centrals a little bit. So the ice wall went over R&D, partially because losing from R&D accesses stinks, and ice wall is something that I can eventually advance to make it really hard to deal with if I need to. Additionally, if she runs on HQ, I'm not sure at this point whether I want to spend the 4 to res Enigma and cause her to lose a click, but I would probably pretty happily spend 2 to keep her out of R&D. The nice thing about Ice Ball is that even if it's not too expensive for them to break with the fractors when it has first been resed and it's not advanced, it's still a pretty, like, they Morningstar costs 8 to install and Battering Ram is 5, so it's a big hit for them to install that breaker, even if breaking the ice is not terribly expensive. So my hand is looking pretty reasonable right now. Um, Probably I recorded this game about a week ago, so I've forgotten a lot of the individual plays. So, we'll be discovering this together and making our own calls about what I should be doing. So, yeah. So I've decided that since I have plenty of credits right now, um, I'm looking at scoring a hostile takeover very soon to, once again, kind of give me a credit boost. And then having hedge fund, I'm okay with spending 4 credits to make her lose a click right now. So my turn's pretty straightforward. Just get this hostile takeover scored, which puts me up enough on credits that I'll be able to continue the credit party with the hedge fund. So looking at this hand that I have right now, I probably next turn install the Enigma in a new remote, put the Melange in there, and then play a hedge fund to gain some money. Wow, past Doug really did the exact same thing that future Doug thought he was going to do. What a chump that guy is. So looking at Loveless's board right now, she has access to a good pile of credits, but doesn't really have a lot to do with them yet. So playing Xanadu is nice because it helps her kind of start putting the economic pressure on me, make me think about whether I actually want to res stuff. In this case, I definitely do, because especially with the bad pub, it'll be free for her to trash my Melange. I'm still happy with her losing clicks. And next turn, I'll be able to, fire off the Melange and keep piling up my money. So, her game is really going to be to try to face check ice and force me to res it and lose tempo because of that. And the best way that I can combat that is to either have ice that will punish with a face check, as the Enigmas have been doing with making her lose a click, or to have a big enough pile of money that I can afford to keep resing stuff and continue keeping her out. So we see Morningstar go down, which means that she has pretty much unfettered access to R&D right now, which I will need to address. On the other hand, it costs her 8 credits to do it. So, while she will be able to run R&D indiscriminately with the bad pub from the early hostile takeover, single accesses don't really winning the game. And so, right now my concern should probably be that um, until I can make R&D, until I can lock R&D down, she's going to be able to run that every single turn. Um, and no, don't do that. Okay, fine. So I decided that instead of digging for ice, my best bet is to just start advancing the ice wall, and pretty quickly it'll get to the point where she's going to need support in the form of ice carver, data sucker, those sorts of things to get in there repeatedly. So looking at her rig right now, I do potentially have a rush opportunity behind this Enigma that I could be taking advantage of. Uh, on the other hand, if I were able to score the priority requisition, getting to 4 points doesn't. It puts me on game point for another pri-rec, but I won't be able to get the agenda ability to do anything useful for me, and that doesn't feel great. So seeing imp go down, I specifically remember losing a number of games playing this deck in practice, where I had ice imped off the top of R&D that would have kept the runner out on a regular basis. So I think that imp is actually super strong in this environment, partially because of its ability to destroy ice that would otherwise be a problem. So like that third Enigma would have been really helpful because she doesn't have a Gordian Blade out, and I could have just thrown it on R&D and been safe for a while. So instead I'm going to go ahead and advance this and make it strength 6. So at this point now, R&D is locked off until she can get some more support online for that Morningstar. And maybe this isn't. I mean, this is, I think, a reasonable play. The disadvantage there is that if she says, "Well, I can't run an R&D, maybe I should run HQ." Well, that's where I've got an agenda sitting, and this is turn 6, and only one agenda's been seen so far. So, like, the numbers kind of say that there should be an agenda in my hand. Sort of a rule of thumb is that most decks are about 1/5 agendas. So in like a 49 card deck, you have like between 9 and 11 agenda cards. This deck, I think, has 11. So like there's probably on average an agenda in your opening hand, and by the time the corp has drawn 5 cards, there's another agenda that they have drawn at some point. So Loveless has the call center up online now. Reina's best econ in this format, I think, is getting the Dyson mem chip out and multiple underworld contacts. So she's feeling pretty good about that. On the other hand, having 28 credits on my side of the board makes me feel even better. One benefit of playing as Wayland is that the threat of punitive Counterstrike is there for people that don't know what you're playing. And so, she might also she's probably also keeping in mind that if she gets too cheeky with the steal, then she will open herself up to a punitive, whether that's actually on the table or not. So when I see her draw, and discard, it makes me think that she's really digging for something that she can use to a decoder. And so what I've done here is put another hard end the run over server 2, getting ready to score out the priority requisition behind 2 ice for which she doesn't yet have a solution. So since she's on 8 credits, like I have to think that, okay, maybe if she was able to draw the Gordian Blade last turn, that's 4 to install it. It's another 2 to break the Enigma, 1 counting the hostile take, the bad pub. And then, she needs to with her other 7 credits, be able to get a killer out and pay for breaking roto turret subs. So I think there's probably a chance here to score the priority requisition out of server 2. And that might have been a better play, because now it's going to get even easier for her to get in there. And even if the Prirec wouldn't have given me the special bonus of resing an ice for free, it would be getting 3 points out of my hand, which probably would have been a good idea. There is the threat that, if she has been holding back a Mimic, or has been holding back a Gordian Blade, that she could get in there. We also saw her pitch a Stim Hack a couple turns ago, which might mean that she has a second one in hand. Because Stim Hack is a super good card for getting surprise scoring windows. Then again, with 2 hostile takeover scored, she might also be concerned about hitting an archer. So she might be hesitant to run even with the Mimic out until she's gotten a couple of Data Sucker tokens or an Ice Carver out, so she can actually break an archer. Yeah, so here I finally decided it's time to jam this agenda. She's on 13 credits now, and she has an answer for the roto turret, so this definitely would have been a better idea last turn than this turn, but here we are. So if she has a Gordian Blade in hand, or even a Force of Nature, then this scoring remote is not looking very, very muscular. Yeah, so I don't know. That probably wasn't the safest play to make, but it turns out that she didn't have a decoder, so I can go on my way. So at this point, I'm actually feeling super confident that I'm going to win this game. I'm up 5-0, and I've got a Trick of Light in hand and a fully charged up Ice Wall. So this is my game to lose. Basically, if I can top deck Project Atlas, then I can win this game. This is what we call hubris. So given how much drawing she's been doing, and the fact that she's throwing away relatively good cards like Retrieval Run, makes me think that she's really digging for a decoder. So I'm going to go ahead and basically, what I'm trying to do right now is sort of just slow her down by presenting threats to her that she has to take a look at, hoping that I'll either be able to draw an agenda with a click and leave it sitting in HQ for a turn, or top deck it with my mandatory draw and score it out immediately. So she keeps drawing and presumably digging for a decoder, which kind of makes me think oh man, I really wish I had a friggin' agenda to score right now. So I just res the naked pad campaign because I'm hoping that she will still take a look at server 2 at some point. So putting the show trash in server 2. If I had installed that in server 2, then she probably would have been more apt to think that that was a failed trap and try to check it. But anyway, whatever, it's good enough. So that ice went over R&D because I'm not really sure why I put that Hadrian's Wall over R&D. I think that probably would have been better off over HQ because R&D was already reasonably secure with that pumped up ice wall. And being able to leave an agenda sitting in HQ for a turn if I click to draw it would be helpful. So this is a brutal play right here. The demolition run with HQI. Because I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, like if she hits that trick of light, then I've got to start trying to score this thing, in a remote. So hits the wall of static. Fine, great. Demo runs it. And then hits a snare. So getting rid of that data sucker. So the cards that were lost were Red Run, Imp, and Data Sucker. So that feels pretty good that I managed to hang on to my Trick of Light and get rid of a Data Sucker in a single shot. Plus, her credits are super low right now, and unless she... she has enough clicks to clear the tag and still make another run on HQ because of bad pub. And she makes a great play right here and makes the follow-up run. Breaks the subs, and we'll get to trash the Trick of Light using Imp. That's brutal. And remove the tag. And so while I have sort of a scoring window here, not really, because she can break those subs with on my scoring remote with the Gordian Blade and with Mimic pretty easily. So I'm kind of kicking myself here because if I had put that Hadrian's over server 2 instead of R&D, then I could have just jammed the Project Atlas in there and finished this game off. Instead, I apparently chose to keep drawing, looking for the second Trick of Light, and flooded myself. So that was a super good play, Doug. Now you've got 4 agenda points in hand. She can get into headquarters for free, and she has an HQI. So really, really stellar choices all around there. I am still up by 5 points, so that's cool. And I think what I'm looking at here is, do I just put an agenda into server 2? Probably a bad idea because she's got enough support and enough drip to get in there pretty easily. Do I try to spam out a couple of agendas and hope that she just doesn't check them all? Or do I score the hostile takeover and leave it so that I only need to score a single point to finish it off, and we'll have a chance to get to make it happen with the false lead or something else. So the play that I was considering of putting out all 3 agendas was a pretty high risk play, and I think it's good that I didn't do that because I would have needed for her to I would have needed for the Project Atlas to remain on the board in order to finish it off, and she could probably just check all 3 and be done with it. So glad I avoided that one. So yeah, things are looking pretty bad here because since she can run HQ pretty indiscriminately, she can charge up data sucker counters to her heart's content and start blowing open R&D. Okay, so I've apparently decided that, yep. So I've gone for kind of this weak play where I present her with two servers that she should probably check this turn. Um, it's not great because she definitely has the resources to check them both without overextending herself. So, whatever. She makes another demo run. And with 3 clicks left, you can easily check both of the remotes. Sorry, server 7 that is, and server 2. So I don't know. I think I've been playing really poorly ever since that demolition run that took out, or sorry, ever since that imp took out the Trick of Light, or even a turn or two prior. Because really with the Hadrian's Wall, and the ice wall, I should have, committed to the game plan of keeping those at high enough strength to prevent the runner from doing anything useful until they get support online. And then I think I definitely, I could have had this game in the bag. So instead, we have this fun video full of regret that I can share with you people. So, clearly she can get in there for almost nothing, get the Project Atlas. And my only hope right now is that she doesn't bother checking server 7, thinking that it's like another pad campaign or something. But, clearly she's got a click. Why wouldn't she check it? So she checks it and scores it. And, here I'm really pooched. So, the big takeaway from this is that I needed to look at, like, what are the servers I actually need to protect and how can I protect them effectively? And the two things I should have been doing are either protecting HQ so that as I'm digging for agendas, I can have them sit in HQ for a turn and rely on the ice wall to keep her out of R&D. Or I should have been leaning into beefing up this remote so that I could make it able to actually support a 2-turn score. So even though I'm up 6-3 right now, I really have like no confidence that I'll be able to close this game out. The archer does potentially give me a way to get a score, but if I use it to protect a false lead, then that doesn't actually move my points ahead. When she steals the false lead anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. So I think that my deck actually delivered all the cards that I needed to win this game, and I just didn't use them effectively. There were a couple of awkward moments that I missed early on where I could have had a relatively safe score, and I went for a riskier one. I don't think that I was protecting the right servers at the right time here, and I think, and also she hasn't made any mistakes as far as I know in this game. Like when she needed a decoder, she was digging for it. She was taking runs early on that let her know what my defenses were going to be, so that when it came down to it, she's able to deal with whatever she needs to deal with. So getting this Hadrian's up is, it's a little late to the game. Like, yeah, I'm going to be able to keep her out of R&D on a more regular basis if I can charge all these things up a little bit. But that doesn't really move the ball here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and then my deck just goes ahead and puts me out of my misery and gives up a Pyrrhec. So yeah, that was a good game. Disappointed a little bit in the choices that I made because I think that it was definitely mine to lose after a certain point. But Loveless played an awesome game, and as of now, she's tearing it up in the cut. So I'm super excited that she did as well as she did. So anyway, this is a great tournament. Big thanks to John for organizing it, fighting Walloon. Um, it's been a lot of fun, cool learning experiences. I don't really think that I'm qualified to be a teacher of Netrunner per se, um, but I hope that other people that are getting to know this game can learn from my mistakes and see how I've approached this game and maybe get something out of it. So big thanks y'all to for watching this. If you actually made it through the end of it, and I look forward to sharing more of my Netrunner life with you as time goes on. So thanks a lot, y'all. Peace.